this video, we will try to understand the food crisis that India is going to experience in the very near future. I will tell you the time duration also uh, in which India is going to face this severe situation. But before that, I want to tell you, we already discussed the food crisis that's going to happen, that's already happening of course in India in our previous videos itself. See, when Rahu entered Aries sign, that time itself this particular food crisis started in India, because Aries is the second house in Indian horoscope. If you consider the time of birth of India at the time of the constitution implementation, right? It's generally the 26th January 1950 morning 10 o'clock, and the place of birth is taken as Delhi, as it was the capital city that time. That's fine. Now, so as and when Rahu entered Aries, that time itself the food crisis started. Now, what extra food crisis that we are going to face? Why we are going to face that extra food crisis in the upcoming duration, that's from September 2023 to January 2024? Why it's going to happen? Means why it's going to increase, right? So already Rahu entered Aries a few months back itself, and Rahu stays in a sign for 1.5 years of duration. So Rahu stays in a particular sign for 1.5 years of duration. So in addition to that, there is some more duration also which is going to make up this particular food crisis in India, that we will discuss in a moment. Now, first of all, what Rahu is actually creating, what kind of food crisis Rahu is creating. And one more thing is, India has lot of vegetation. If you compare the whole world, India is a country, people mainly depend upon the vegetarian food, the plant-based food. And compared to any other country, I think India is the main country which consumes vegetables more, because it can be because of the population, and also we have lot of vegetarian food available in our country. So that is another reason. Now, recently also there's a lot of food crisis that's happening, but there's one important thing that's going to happen in the month of September, that's around 14th September 2023. That's Rahu comes into the Gandanta point. So you may say, what is a Gandanta point? You may ask. In our previous videos also we actually covered it up. A Gandanta point is a junction between a fiery sign and a watery sign. That is the Gandanta point, right? So the junction between Gandanta point, the junction between a fiery sign and watery sign is nothing but the Gandanta point. So it's something like, you may ask, so how many Gandanta points are there in the sky, in the zodiac? So there are 3 Gandanta points, because there are 3 junctions between this fiery sign and the watery sign. So if you see, Cancer is a watery sign and Leo is a fiery sign. So the junction between Cancer and Leo is a Gandanta point. So Gandanta point generally stays at the last pada of, means last 3.20 degrees of a sign, of a watery sign, and the first 3.20 degrees of a fiery sign. So Gandanta energy stays last 3.20 degrees of a watery sign and the first 3.20 degrees of a fiery sign. So Gandanta energy can exist between Cancer and Leo, also between Scorpio and Sagittarius, because the last part of the Scorpio, which is Jyeshtha 4th pada, the 3.20 degrees there is also, it's a Gandanta energy point. Also the initial part of Sagittarius, Sagittarius is a fiery sign, and the initial part of Sagittarius is actually Mula 1st pada. So the Mula 1st pada also consists of a Gandanta energy. Also the junction between Pisces and Aries also consists of Gandanta energy. The last part of Pisces, that is Revati 4th pada, consists of Gandanta energy. Also the initial part of Aries, that is Ashwini 1st pada, that is the 3.20 degrees, the first 3.20 degrees of Aries also has this Gandanta energy. So every pada is 3.20 degrees, right? So the Gandanta points in the whole zodiac are Revati 4th pada, Ashwini 1st pada, then Aslesha 4th pada, and Magha 1st pada, Jyeshtha 4th pada, and Mula 1st pada. So these are the Gandanta points in a zodiac. So whenever a planet comes there, it actually shows a lot of turmoil. It gives a lot of turmoil. Even in the natal horoscopy, means a horoscope for an individual in a native chart, if a person has a lot of planets in the Gandanta points, then it means the person has a lot of karmic baggage and he has to pay for it. So he has to be very, very spiritual to ignore all the difficulties that he comes across his life. So Gandanta points cannot be ignorable. Then from September 14, 2023 to 23rd January 2024, what's happening basically? In this particular duration, Rahu, so on 14 September 2023, Rahu actually is entering Ashwini 1st pada, which is a Gandanta energy point. So, and it transits in the Ashwini 1st pada for a particular duration and it enters Revati 4th pada after that, and it stays there in Revati 4th pada till 23rd January 2024. So during this particular time, right, when Rahu is transiting this particular Gandanta energy point, right, on both sides, that is in the Aries and also the Pisces, India is going to experience a lot of turmoil, a lot of, it's a kind of, as it is covering both the second house, because Aries is the second house for India and Pisces is the first house. As Rahu is transiting both the second house and first house during this particular period, India may experience food crisis. Not only food crisis, the problem can be related to existence as well, because the first house basically means the existence, right? So as Rahu is transiting the second house and the first house, that to the Gandanta points of the second house and the first house, so this Rahu is going to be very, very critical. So starting from 14 September 2023, this Rahu is going to give. So when this particular Rahu, the critical planet, the problematic planet, is actually transiting the Gandanta energy points, going to give troubles in the particular areas, the second house and first house for India. So, second house is related to food and finance, and first house is related to the existence of the country itself. So, one more important thing we can tell is India is very rich in food resources. Basically, fundamentally it is very rich in food resources, but the problem is, as Rahu is transiting, so the amount of food resources in India going to be reduced significantly during this particular period, very significantly. See, when Rahu entered Aries itself, that time we discussed, now onwards India is going to experience a lot of food crisis, and it started that time itself. Now, as it is reaching the final stage kind of thing, right, the very important area, as Rahu is coming to the Gandanta point in the second house, so it's going to be even more critical, right. And also finance also India may have some trouble in the financial matters, and see currently lot of floods occurring in different parts of India. So obviously, see, when Jupiter crisis, we made a video, the Jupiter crisis, the June month actually very important for India. We made the video that because Jupiter Rahu came very close during that period of time. So June 2023 was one of the worst months for India, and also July, the floods are continuing. It's the impact of the Jupiter crisis only, you can say, right, because Jupiter is very important for India. When Jupiter gets disturbed, India gets disturbed, as well as even USA also has some impact. Whenever Jupiter is under trouble, USA also has some problems, right, as a general trend. If you observe the history of these two countries based on the behavior of Jupiter, you can clearly come to know this fact. And the current floods, which are really impacting lot of parts of India financially, right. So now, of course, you might have seen Modi ji is actually continuing a lot of deals with Russia for getting the petrol, crude oil for very lesser price. At the same time, right, at the same time you can see these floods. So whatever money India is saving by this crude oil deals, right, they are losing most part of it by these floods and the natural calamities, right. So if you observe in the previous video, we also observed the Jupiter Rahu conjunction coming very closer, and this conjunction being watched by Saturn is actually indicating a very resource drain happening of resource drain, right. So there would be a lot of resources, but at the same time draining is also happening, right. This point we clearly quoted multiple times. That's the impact of Guru Chandala Yoga, right, the Rahu Jupiter conjunction. At the same time, this conjunction is watched by Saturn. Even more. See, Rahu comes to this particular Aries, Pisces, Gandanta energy points every 18 years once, but this time the impact is more severe because this particular happening is watched by Saturn. Saturn is watching this whole stuff with its third aspect, and Saturn's third aspect is very critical, and the country is suffering. And even more, if you observe the planetary positions, all are giving a lot of pressure to Pisces. We'll try to make more and more videos on this, because Pisces is severely under the trouble, right. Even now Pisces is under trouble because clearly it's July, right? So see, this particular Saturn is watching Aries, but at the same time if you observe the Pisces sign, this side Pisces has Saturn and the another side Pisces has Rahu. So it's called Papa Kartari, right? So Pisces has the two most Papa Grahas, two sides. So Pisces is under pressure. And this particular Saturn is really dangerous because this is also watched by Mars, right? And just imagine when Mars enters Virgo in the upcoming time, right? We'll make another video on that. What are the impacts of that? But once Mars moves to Virgo, you can clearly understand Pisces is going to be watched by Mars with its seventh aspect, which is very dangerous. And at the same time, one side of Pisces has Saturn, another side of Pisces has Rahu. Just imagine this situation when a person, so what are the three most malefic planets in the Vedic astrology? They are, the first one is Rahu, the second one Saturn, the third one Mars. So when a particular sign is severely pressurized, severely under stress by these three malefic planets, just imagine the stress experienced by that particular sign, right? So on Pisces sign, we're saying that is the first house of India. That's the existence, the house of existence for India. So Pisces is rated as the ascendant for India because 26 January 1950 10 a.m. in the parliament, and a place of birth is taken as Delhi, considered as the birth details, is considered as the time of birth, place of birth and date of birth. These three are considered based on that particular, right, the constitution event. So when constitution is actually started, means it's coming to the public, it's actually declared, the official constitution is actually came into existence on 26 January 1950 10 a.m. New Delhi, India. So that's actually considered as the time of birth. Not only based on that event, India is basically sacrificing in nature. India is very much religious, and a lot of the religious activities, because Pisces is a sign of religious sacrifices, homas, yajnas, all the stuff. So India is very much famous for this religious rituals. Pisces is actually the sign of religious rituals, and India is very much famous for that. And India is sacrificing because lot of countries came to India and they gain a lot, but India never go to it never had gone to any other country to loot them. So many other countries came to India and they tried to loot India, right? So India was a bit sacrificing also in the history of times. So basically India is considered to be a Pisces ascendant country, right? So that is one of the important conclusions we can make here. So as Pisces is under pressure, India is slowly going under pressure, right? Now that's the upcoming food crisis for India. So definitely it has to be taken care from September 14, that's 14 September 2023 to 23rd January 2024. It is the critical period that India has to consider, and this particular period is it's going to be very disturbing for India. Something like a lot of food scarcity, right, can be observed throughout India. Lot of food scarcity means food rates. So what kind of things you may observe in India during that particular time? The main thing is food rates going to their peaks. Something like you may see vegetables being sold at the cost of something like 100 rupees per kg, right. Currently some of the vegetables are like that, but at least you can see 40 rupees, 30 rupees per kg also you can see in Indian markets, but during that time you can clearly see 100 rupees per kg most of the vegetables, and more than that, even more than that, right. So the fundamental problem is food prices, and even more, even if you go to some hotels to eat some food, the food cost, even the breakfast or lunch or dinner, whatever you choose, the cost is going to be very, very high, right. But basically, fundamentally, India is very good in this particular resources, the vegetable resources, the natural resources. So, right, India, some people, at least the upper middle class and also the rich people can afford, but during the time even upper middle class people may suffer, because the prices are going to be very, very high. The food prices are going to be very, very high during that time. So even the upper middle class people may suffer during that particular time, right. But rich people, of course, they can afford some of the goods, and they can have some normal times. I'm not saying they may have good times, they may also have some normal times. That is one thing. And what about the poor people, right? Poor people may not afford a food, and how they can adjust. So it's a very, very good thing that, right, government try to understand this kind of trend, even if they try to analyze scientifically also, something like very practically, even if they think very practically also, they can clearly understand the food resources are going down in India, and it's time to implement some kind of food security measures. It's time to help the farmers. It's time to train even the young people to get attracted to the agricultural activities, and it's a very, very good idea if people can try to crop something in the house itself, try to get some plantation in their houses itself, right. That kind of new techniques, new ideas, right, government or people should come up with. Even the private organizations who are actually looking after this kind of things, the food, the agricultural activities, so they also should think on this things, right. So definitely in the coming future, food is going to play a very, very important role, and if you're wasting food in your house, it's a good idea that you try to control that. You try to avoid wasting food. You try to donate the food to someone in your neighborhood, in your surroundings, right. So that's a good idea. But in some places, in some remote places, people are going to, even some extreme events also can happen because of this food scarcity in India in upcoming days, and especially the duration we mentioned, September 2023 to January 2024, right. And also the financial resources, because food is money, money is food, right, in the upcoming days. In recent times also you can observe the prices of tomato, prices of mirchi, right, it's gone very high in India, right. That's because of the Rahu's effect only. Rahu and Jupiter coming very, very closer, as and when they are coming very, very closer in the second house of Aries and also watched by Saturn, just imagine the impact was very, very severe, and that was the impact of Saturn and Rahu combinedly, right, showing their impact on the second house of India. Thanks for watching this video.